Pounders, welcome back. Tonight, we have a special guest, Tyler, aka Emo Cowboy, who's been doing great work over on Fantasy Sanctuary's YouTube channel. Tonight, we're going to be drafting a BBM 5 team, and hopefully, we'll get Tyler to put on the cowboy hat finally. At 50 likes tonight, you guys can see the cowboy hat. I want to see what this thing looks like. Tyler, welcome to the live stream.
What's up? What's up, Pat and the Pounders? That's what I'm gonna call y'all, like a '70s band.
I think first thing we need to know, where's the username come from?
That's just been me for like the last few years, man. I'm a gamer at heart. You know, all the Halo days, the COD days. You needed like a pseudonym and stuff, and I shed my teenage one. You know, for like who am I in the digital space, like early college, and everywhere I worked, because I was from Texas, and I did the dirty work, like working with horses, baling hay,
Cool.
horse crap, all that stuff. So it's cowboy this, cowboy that. I'm huge in the emo scene. So I have a thing for names, and Emo Cowboy came out, and it's been unique. It's been fun. It's pretty much the dichotomy of who I am as far as Houston native and emo guy. So that's just it. No one else steals it. So it's fun.
That's the best. Hey, you got to lean into who you are. That's most important. Be true to yourself. Some quick hellos. Adam gets here early. Jared, what's up? Too cool, rad. Logan, Bindle's dropping a membership with 6 people in the live stream. Adam just can't win one. It's kind of sad at this point. It's kind of sad at this point. Yeah, thanks guys for coming in, joining us. If you haven't already, go down, slap the like on the live stream, and we'll be doing a 24-hour live stream. If we hit 2K subs before NFL kickoff, we're on pace. It's crazy, and I'm sure we'll have you on for that as well. But Tyler, let me know, how has your BBM 5 drafts been going? How many have you done so far? And are you looking to max this contest?
Only done a handful so far, kind of just saving those for Fantasy Sanctuary right now. I like to attack info, and there's just not been a lot of info outside of post-draft. We're getting little nuggets here or there. I think a lot are pretty consistent with what we heard early on. So I'm saving some bullets for those pockets of info throughout camp, because it's invaluable in a contest like this.
It's true. Yeah, so I agree with that. Unless there are certain players that you believe are pretty heavy movers,
right?
I wouldn't be doing 3 drafts a day, 5 drafts a day. I'm getting super ahead of where it's at, because again, the ADPs have shifted to a point where we're in a spot in the offseason where there's not a lot of movement, because you're not getting that news. There are some small nuggets on a few players, but everyone has those nuggets. And if you jump into a draft and you don't get that, it kind of feels bad. You're like, fuck, I just wasted.
And those nuggets are like not. I mean, they're not nothing, but they're definitely not going to be the same value even a month from now. Like, like there's not that much camp, and what people forget is there's a lot of dudes not at camp right now. It's voluntary season right now, and so some of the stuff you're getting is just because nobody's there. So it's like it's tenuous, and you got to be careful about like what exactly you're overreacting to, because we're going to get stuff as just naturally camp goes through, install goes, and then just injuries. Like we know there are going to be injuries and stuff. So I'm not the guy that's like, this is why you don't draft till September, but I definitely know like there is valuable information in June, valuable information in July, and then when you get preseason stuff, like that stuff is so important to hammer, and you want to keep some of that EV, especially if you're going to max this contest, which I haven't the last few years, but I'm sure as hell tempted now with how flat the payout structure is.
For sure. And then on top of that, the later it goes, the more concentrated and correlated teams that you're making, because of the information that you have. Anyone that gets traded, or like you said, injuries. So now maybe a number 4 receiver now turns into a number 3, like RIP Tim Patrick 2 years in a row. I wanted it to happen. I wanted it to happen.
It was such a clean bet, and both times you were just like, snake bit. This is awful.
100%. Watch, it'll hit this year, because I didn't draft any Tim Patrick. But
if he comes back from that, he deserves it, because the odds of an old guy like that off of 2 ACLs is not kind.
No, it's it's definitely not voting well in his favor, and especially with what the team is doing to sort of moving past drafting Troy Franklin, and so not expecting a whole lot there from Tim Petty. But we did sneak into a draft. We tipped off the members. There's still one spot left. If you want to jump in this BBM 5 draft with us, man, I got to update the draft guide in 2%. That 20% went so fast.
Yeah, it's ahead of last year. Oh, back-to-back 101s on stream.
Let's go.
Cook, baby.
We're going to the moon. All right.
Damn.
I am so low on my well, not on CMC, but look at my I have
Rob
0 lamb
in the room. That's hilarious.
I have 0 lamb.
Oh, dude, I just found out I have 0 Jamar Chase across 133 drafts. So
yeah, but on purpose, like, are you drafting him at like 5 or 6?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's mostly trying to get a lot of Bijan and Breece early on, just because I think they both have access to legendary running back seasons. And if I'm going to do hero RB builds, I want to draft a lot of with those two guys, especially Bijan, because there's never been a cleaner setup for a guy to crush.
Dude, I love that. And also the RBs over Amon-Ra is something that I've been looking at, but when you get this playoff schedule from Amon-Ra with Chicago, San Fran, some juicy games, it is tough. But Bijan, same thing, has some juicy games. Shout out to Frank in the 9 spot and King Coakley in 5, as well as Logan in the 3. So this should be a fun one. Everyone's spread out a little bit at least.
Coakley at 5 we're not going to get any Mahomes like falling Chiefs stuff. That FYI.
That's okay. That's okay. Where are you on Kelsey? Are you okay with his ADP?
I'm mixing him in here or there, but I really prefer Andrews and McBride for the youth. I love McBride, and I understand like underlying Kelsey, like he ran bad with an injury.
Yeah.
And I know that and I'm coming around, I was kind of heavy on like the whole managing his workload thing for the playoffs narrative, pretty heavy. Understanding that like that was somewhat true and somewhat overblown. But I mean, age is a thing, and the dude's going to be like what 35 this season. So it's it's tough when you're if we're saying week 17 is all that matters, and if we're saying we're playing for late season, you have to have a little bit of concern. And I know detractors will say, well, it's 4th, 5th round, like and I'm like, I get that, but also if I can bet on the younger guys who haven't been dealing with stuff, whose coaches isn't saying, hey, if we have it locked up, we're resting guys, like I don't want to be that dumbass sitting there going week 17, like, man, I knew better. That's where I'm struggling with it.
Yeah, I'm there with you too on Kelsey. I will say the NFL is so good at making these games at the end of the year count to keep as many eyes. In a way, it's like, what do we lean in on? Do we lean in on the fact that they're going to be fighting for home field advantage? Kelsey's going to be out there, or is there the chance that they run away with it? We know they made some pretty big improvements at offense. I mean, anytime you get rid of MVS on the field doing cardio is a pretty big upgrade. So I am on the side that I want to be ahead of the cliff on an aging player like that. And I like Kyle Pitts going later than Kelsey. So especially with Kirk, just the amount that he targets the tight end is it's intriguing to me at Pitts ADP.
Yeah, and one thing definitely helping the Chiefs is their stretch, their last 4 stretches: Browns, Texans, Steelers, Broncos. So like Steelers probably not that big of a deal, but as far as like that's an in-conference game. You've got the Browns and the Texans who should be playoff contenders. So like, yeah, that works in the favor of the narrative, but it's you can only run away from age for so long, and you got to be a little cognizant of that. And also like McBride, the second he got more than 60% snaps and routes, his usage was insane, and he ran bad on touchdowns. So I'm finding a hard time and my exposure show it not being super heavy on McBride, given just like he can be a number 2 in a high scoring offense with Kyler, and if he just runs better on touchdowns, just variance has nothing. But Marv makes the offense score more. So like that's I'll not have a lot of Kelsey just because I'm trying to make sure I get wide receivers and youth down the stretch. But I've probably got to I'll get to a point where I have to start just making him in builds just in case, he runs good.
Yeah, and I think another good point that you sort of said in there without saying it all is like these tight ends aren't really going to move all that much. So if you can
Probably not.
find the risers around them,
Yeah.
that's good. How about Evans here? Good with Evans.
I love me some Evans. 3 touchdowns are always nice. Wide receiver here wise, I have some leans, but what are you feeling?
Personally, like I like Waddle in this range. Obviously, Logan using the ranks and the fact that he's risen this far, but I don't mind going any one of these if we're going receiver, to be
Same.
honest.
Same.
So
Yeah.
I don't mind mixing it up too. It's completely up to you.
Let's get an old and a young. Let's do some neighbors.
Let's do it.
I haven't been getting a lot of him on the turn, but there is a chance that he's just soaking up targets. His profile is stupid good, and again, if we're talking like the playoff stretch, if he's just doing yak grown ass man things with the ball in his hand, it's hard to say no to that. So
right. And being the number one target on the team, like pretty clearly, should mean a ton of work early on for a rookie.
Well, this is the same offense that once gave Kadarius Toney 11 targets in a single game, and we saw him explode for a stupid amount of yards and points as like a yak guy. This is the
Right.
same team that's given Wandale like 7-8 targets, and Slayton and Hyatt and Wandale have all hit like 2 touchdown long receiving
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
So if you're just telling me that offensive environment also now has this super juiced up top receiver, like that sounds awesome.
Do you like any of those late receivers like Hyatt, Slayton in the 18th round?
I mix them in. I mean, Slayton feels like the perennial, like he feels like the 17th, 18th round version of Tyler Lockett, the guy who is always underappreciated but always gets there. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that if that offense wasn't, as, as garbage as it was from a health and a run out standpoint, he probably still. I mean, he hits in week 17 in a big way with those long touchdowns. But I am cognizant that it's kind of ambiguous, and that could mean like cuts, trades, or relegation. So I'm mixing in Slayton and Hyatt. I'm not a big Wandale guy simply because I think that Hyatt's the more recently drafted guy. Coach speak was we're going to get him back in the slot where he makes more sense, and Wandale has not been like an outside guy. So, but neither one has been that good. So if I'm going to mix in a guy, Wandale's usually more expensive than Hyatt. So I'm probably taking one of those guys. And I think from a standpoint of, well, who's more likely to hit my roster? I don't think Wandale getting like 8 targets with Malik Neighbors in town is possible, but Hyatt or Slayton getting 2 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown can still happen. So that's kind of how I'm approaching it now, but I could be dead wrong, and Camp might tell me otherwise, and I will adjust. If Hyatt's getting benched and it's not Wandale, well, now he's more interesting. But I hope to God at some point I have a better rookie to target, than a Giants wide receiver 3.
And even Slayton with the incentives, I think people sort of realize like, oh shit, like this is still a thing. He's going to be here next year. He is a spike week guy. I mean, even if he just does it once or twice a year, it's still there. He was on a weekly winners winning team last year. And some of that single game ceiling stuff does matter, especially the later you go. You need players that are going to spike above your starters. So Slayton definitely in play too.
I think, and that's a fun thing you said. You mentioned weekly winners, and I'm playing a little bit of it. I've loved all of the content you've put out for it.
Appreciate it.
I think when you play contests like that, it kind of reframes that, like, oh yeah, the guys that can hit 25 and 35 and 40 point totals, there's not a ton of those guys at each tier, and if that guy goes off when you need him to for a 17th, 18th round, that's huge, massive leverage for both like your roster and on the field, depending on when that happens. And I think that's one thing to be cognizant of, like late, is like, who are you targeting? You want someone that could like just Like if a guy has one good week at the last few rounds, that's awesome. If a guy,
Right.
and that's why the Pukas and Tanks, people keep talking about Puka and Tank. Year before that, it was Zay Jones in Jacksonville. It doesn't always have to be a rookie. It's just like there are a couple of guys that will like have really solid seasons.
Even Christian Watson, his rookie year, he
Exactly,
went
yeah.
bananagrams and
that was massive. So you want to chase those profiles. So it's like Hyatt at least is a year 2 guy, and we knew he'd be raw. We got told he'll probably be slow rolled by Dayball. So like that's why I'm a little bit more in on him than Wandale, because Wandale's third year guy with questionable, like true upside in this environment now. But
right.
I'm probably hoping just hammering rookies late because those guys are true big what if boxes that could hit in a massive way.
Honestly, I think I'm indifferent. Like I like Wandale too. Can we get Tank Dell, please? Loke?
That'd be nice. But I called it. Coakley loves him some Travis Kelce.
Yeah. Gets Kelce at 44, a little fall on Kelce. I've yet to grab a share of Kelce. Yeah, look.
How many BBMs are you in now?
I believe this is number 26. Number 26.
Okay. That's a pretty good pace if you're, I assume you're maxing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, with the contest almost 20% full, 20% would be 30 drafts. So we're basically on pace with the fill rate.
Yeah, it's good. Also, like you want to keep your finger on the pulse.
Okay. Have a little Christian Kirk here. And then do you want to go Trey McBride?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Because it also gives you access to one of the more undervalued potential elite quarterbacks.
Ken Coakley in the house, dropping the membership. Appreciate you, bro.
Rob, appreciate you, bud.
Officially a YouTube spoon and gifting one.
What an
Man's
alpha.
too kind. Man's too kind.
It's because we left Patrick Mahomes alone. He was bribing us. He said, leave him alone.
Yeah. Do not take my stack. The after ADP fall on 2 players in the same offense does feel so good, though.
Oh, yeah.
Logan shouldn't be touching him. So he's just going to have to get by one guy.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh,
dun, dun.
I saw purple too.
Woo! Rob's butthole puckered all the way, guaranteed.
Nice.
He clinched all the way.
What a little sweat early in the draft. The season hasn't even started.
Liking the team though. A nice bit of ceiling and floor, and good bit of youth, good bit of veteran leadership in the room. Love to see it.
Yeah, sure, Logue. Sure, whatever you say. You hate me, I know it. It's fair. I like the tank. I love the Tank Dell price.
Yeah, I've got a ton.
But I'm also correlating it with, I think Diggs should fall a little bit. So I'm gonna be a little heavier on Tank, a little less on where Diggs goes.
Yeah, I have a lot of like Zay Tank and Tank Andrews so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we are able to bring in Kyler here, what are your thoughts on like a late Zay Jones? Obviously some unknown and in a new offense. Do you think there's a chance to work in some sort of red zone role or some sort of spike week type role for this offense?
So when he got brought in, the coaches were talking about his versatility and his ability to compete at every position, which is why they wanted and liked him. I think that's prudent given that Michael Wilson kind of struggled even when he wasn't injured.
Right.
He profiles as fine, not great.
He wasn't the guy, clearly.
Yeah. And I've speculated that, they were pretty clear that they like and want Dortch to be the slot. So I think Zay is depth first and foremost, and second, seemingly competition for Michael Wilson in because Zay seems to be the guy to attack vertically, and they showed us they're not Cliff Kingsbury's horizontal raid. So if you've got and I think it's probably Marv being able to operate vertically without having bracket coverage. If you have a guy like Zay who he's kind of like Gabe Davis but worse at this point in his career. He's a vertical guy but inconsistent, like drops, blah blah blah. So I think he and Michael Wilson cannibalize each other until I get camp news, and I think Dortch is the guy who remains free but was really effective in the slot, but he's no longer splitting time with Rondale in the slot. And they should run 11 personnel at a pretty good clip considering it was efficient, and that's that's like Marv makes it make sense to have. Zay gives them if one of their guys is missing, between Dortch or Michael Wilson, you feel good about all three receivers on the field, and depth was necessary for an offense like this. So Zay's fine, but I don't know who's going to get the role and if they're just going to rotate. And if they're going to rotate, I'm not as interested versus, again, like a rookie that might just take over the role completely.
I do like the range he goes in. Obviously, you can't complain about how late he goes. And then with an elite rookie and an elite tight end, grabbing a lot of eyes of the defenders.
That's true.
I don't take him that often in non-Kyler teams. I'm mixing him in. Like, let me see.
I mean, he has a profile we talked about. He's a guy that has like spike week potential. So I don't mind it. I'm just, newly signed. Recently, he was an expected cut from the Jags, who replaced him with Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis. So I just want to be cognizant that like maybe he's just depth. If he wins a role, then that's signal, because Michael Wilson.
Jacksonville was the first place that he actually sort of earned a larger role in his career. So that's what sort of does worry me.
Yeah. What if he goes back to like the Buffalo decoy guy? That's not valuable. If he's MVS in Arizona, it's not valuable.
We are in Brian Thomas here. We'll bring in a little double stack.
Love it a lot.
And then this next pick,
I'm gonna yeah. Let's lock it up. He already knows. We're already set.
Yeses. So many yeses. All of the yeses.
I look at that McBride Kyler stack like I look at a nice T-bone steak. It makes me excited.
Let's go. How many likes do we have left to get this man's cowboy hat on? 25 likes. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen before the end of the stream.
This is like a reverse strip poker. You're trying to put clothes on top of me.
I know.
It's a good meta.
Well, you're already covering the mop. Best hair in YouTube. We forgot to mention best hair on YouTube in the Bestball space. At a minimum, it might even extend beyond that.
You know what? That's it's a low bar in the fantasy space. You got a lot of thin, balding. Hey, and by the way, this is not shots. I'm just saying, y'all all wear hats for a reason. I wear mine to be lazy with my hair because I live in a place with 100% humidity, and days are long. Best. But I'm competing with the likes of the dude. The hair in the scene. That's some beautiful, gorgeous man hair. So I compete with that.
Oh shit! It's too real. FFB Wizard with 4 RB, 2 wide receivers. Where is
that's
he
tough,
going?
Man. That's
weird.
You're not
and the 4th RB is Alvin. Like that's even tougher for me. Is this guy just on auto?
Probably. Yeah, that looks like ADP.
Nope.
Oh, well, it could be auto with ranks.
Yeah.
Got an ETR drafter going. That's okay. He's going to get bailed out with Zay Jones, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore. Like those guys are going to unlock this build, is what they'll tell themselves.
It's funny because even if he is doing that, right? Like you're stopping at 4 RBs, no matter what, investing, your first 3 picks.
That's the only way
to already go the 5th. It's something to note for us because this could change the room if this dude ends up bringing in like 8 RBs, and if they're all relatively early.
Well, thankfully we have Anchor CMC that saves
100%.
a lot of builds no matter what. So
this guy's got a 1-3-1-1. All right, so we might have 2 dead teams in this room.
I love it. Name this team. We better advance or else.
Right. or your shit.
Which is why I also like that we went ahead and got some nice stacks. We've got our elite. I mean, we used Anchor running back to give ourselves some really good wide receivers early and often, an elite quarterback, and elite tight end. So we've given ourselves a lot of flexibility to play the pockets, and this is probably going to get pretty wonky pretty soon.
Oh yeah, I love that we're hitting this, and then if we bring in a nice little T-Law with this double stack, that'd be very, very ideal. And if we have that in mind, we have Tennessee week 17, Vegas, Myers, Brooks off. So looking at 16 for Arizona. Rams, anyone like Demarcus Robinson late? Does that do anything for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've tagged him on plenty. I
Okay.
mean, you're talking about wide receiver 3, who has a red zone role, was re-signed for that red zone role,
Yeah.
and they haven't done anything else. And
Yeah.
guess what? He like that's a better wide receiver 3 than you're going to find on most teams. He's gelled well. We've seen him be useful in the playoffs on multiple
Mhm.
teams, even on the Bears 2 years ago.
And he clearly beat out Tutu. Like, by
Yeah,
the end of
yeah,
the year, like,
easily.
the snaps were, and then the contract afterwards. So,
And if
yeah,
anything
all
happens to
signs.
Cup, who's gonna be 31 this June, I believe, and dealt with a hammy and the ankle's fine, but the hammy could be an issue, right? Reoccurrence rate of injury for hammies are real.
That's
All
where
of a
the big
sudden,
upside is.
yeah, so
That's
if if anybody has a red zone role, that's more valuable than anything because touchdowns matter in half point PPR, and it doesn't have to be that complicated. In my humble opinion, it can be
I like
complicated,
it. I like
but
it.
guy who catch touchdown is good.
Is this guy with Chase gonna take Burrow at 94? Logan? Logan? I was gonna say, holy shit, what a drop. That's
Stroud and
crazy.
Burrow, that's fun.
That's crazy. DeLudo's in the live stream, said, "I'm at 2." He's got a little 6 wide receiver, tight end start.
Pissing.
Big time. Streaming. This
Nice
should be
stream, brother.
Dak. This should
Nice,
be Dak.
strong stream.
I mean, we can go naked Dak here, just
It's
we're
suboptimal.
not doing that. He knows. He knows
If
we're not doing
Ferguson
it.
was here, I'd say the double tap would be worth it.
Do you like one of these running backs? Do you like Tyler Lockett to bring in our 5th?
Yeah, you know what? I think a Lockett running back would be good. I like mixing in some Moss, but I won't be mad if we reach for a running back we like a little bit more juice. But I think Lockett makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Singletary, Robinson, Javante.
I'm Robinson and Singletary over Javante, and Zach Moss
Same.
has the higher ADP and allows us to kind of do some stack stuff. So,
I will
I
say
think they're all in a tier together.
I will say when you pass on Moss, you do have the chance to bring in Chase Brown
No,
too
let's go
late.
Singletary or B Rob. I'll leave it up to you.
I like that.
I like both guys. I have 37% Brian Robinson through 133 drafts, so I don't mind either guy.
Let's bring in Singletary. We'll get this little
Yeah,
mini
we've
with
already got the stack.
neighbors.
Yeah, forgot we had neighbors. Good call. I was just saying I don't need more B Rob.
Dude, I like B-Rob,
good.
man, but he doesn't feel as good on like your Jaden Daniels teams because you are looking for those touchdowns to go to
I
the
don't mind
QB.
it. I don't mind it because you're just investing in in that
In the
Cliff
offense as a whole.
offense. The rushing offense is top 12 almost every single year. So like if you're just capturing all of the touchdowns, which are going to be mainly through Jaden, through the running back, and through the tight ends dust in Ertz until Senate gets on the field, right?
Mhm.
And that's TBD. And Terry's really good, but Terry's not he doesn't profile as like a massive red zone guy. They just haven't used him like that.
Right.
And Cliff famously had Connor get the most red zone carries of any back 3 years ago. So I get taking shots on either guy, but I'm huge on B Rob as far as youth and juice. Love you, Eckler, but you're kind of looking a little suspect at your age with your injuries on a new team. So
Definitely. I think my only worry for B-Rob is if Eckler's gonna spell him in the red zone at all. So on
well,
top
and yeah,
of Daniels.
yeah, and I mean, and even then, again, like he has to be healthy through the full season. He has to be efficient. He wasn't really that efficient, and I get the line was bad and all that other good stuff, but
Oh yeah.
B Rob profiles as like a Connor type, and it would not shock me if they used Eckler in the Chase Edmonds role, and everybody chased Chase Edmonds, in the 9th and 8th round that year, and Connor went in the 13th and 14th,
Mm-hmm.
and Connor crushed on just, hey, if I'm only going to get carries inside the 20, I can just smash. And so, and every once in a while he comes around. So I think he's a really, really great addition to the backfield season long and for the playoffs.
I agree. I think you bring up a good point, like betting on the offense as a whole, and you're basically making the bet that both prices on players are mispriced. And That's
Absolutely.
just based on the offense, was suspect last year. I do like finding offenses like that, and I actually don't think it's too negatively correlated just based on where they're going. It's not, you're not spending too much.
Yeah, it's negatively correlated like in a single game, but even that negative correlation um is not a barrier to the correlation of just capturing the touchdowns. And if
Right.
it's going to happen, it's going
Right.
to be and we've seen it with Lamar and his running backs. Like Lamar can get 2 rushing touchdowns, Gus can get 2 rushing
Mhm.
touchdowns, and nobody else gets anything. That doesn't correlate poorly. In the perfect ideal world, sure, it's like passer to rusher, but that can also just be, I mean, Cliff is one of the most stubborn people in the NFL. He's going to run it whether you want it to or not, and he's going to
Yep.
throw it to one guy on one side of the field every single time, whether you like it or not. And if you just adjust for that and say, well, this offense should be better and it's going to score, and it's probably going to score through like these 3 guys, it doesn't have to be complicated.
And I like the show too, Lamar and Gus. And when you think of that, you're thinking of a QB that goes super early and then a RB that goes super late. So obviously
Right.
you can hit on both. Someone like Barkley, if you're also going Hurts, that's where I'm worried about like the price allocation of that
Yeah,
stack and like how
absolutely.
do they both get there. Even if the offense is elite, you need to really capture a large majority. It
Yeah,
looks like the
especially because at
T-Law
that point,
dream
yeah, you
is
need like
coming
a single
true.
game. Yeah. Yeah. Folks should be mindful about how much they're investing into early picks on a single offense.
So we get T-Law here, and we can touch at receiver. We could reach up for someone dusty like Zeke
I think
or
we're gonna
Reese.
like the running backs that come back around to us, and I think we got a nice value on a play. I love Shaheed, and that opens up another late QB stack if we
We're
set up
stopping
our
at
stuff
2.
well.
I think we have to stop at 2 here.
All right, all right.
Just with the investment, I think is I'm comfortable with stopping.
I'm comfortable with stopping too, but I'm just saying if Carr's gonna be at pick 200 and we've
I
allocated
know.
well, I don't mind it. But I like Shaheed, and I'm fine
Okay.
with Zeke. So either one, but I think we
Okay.
could probably catch up on wide receiver a little bit more. And same thing, targeting players on an offense that could way outperform based on previous year. The new OC in town, Kubiak, comes from the Shanny system. They're actually going to use, motion for the first time in the Saints
Right. Right. Right.
history post Peyton, and that should help everybody in that offense, including the guy that when he does pop, it's for 2 long touchdowns.
They have a good connection, and it doesn't take a whole lot of targets for Shaheed to get there.
Nope.
So I 10 picks after ADP.
Very nice.
This is a really good spot to bring him in. We did have the Myers little week 16 stack
Yeah.
underlined there with our little double, but not too
I like Myers,
not too
but,
crazy.
if you're
Give
gonna
me
get
the value
ADP,
here.
yeah, if you're gonna get ADP value, and I think I think we kinda saw his upside there. I think he's gonna have some competition for short targets from just making sure
Bowers.
Adams stays fed, and then as
Mhm.
well as, Brock Bowers being in town. Like,
Yep.
so you worry about how those targets are gonna shake out. So if I could just say, what if Shaheed profiles as the wide receiver 2 in an offense that just gets more efficient because we're not dumping off to Alvin Kamara 10 times a game?
Mhm.
That sounds good.
He does feel like the floor play, right? So, like, if he's
Yeah,
gonna be your wide receiver, even, like, wide receiver 5, and especially where we have 2 rookies, maybe Myers
right.
does fit the bill a little better, but where
Yeah,
we have already 5 receivers, we need someone that can spike ahead, and,
yep.
yeah, even in that context of, like, what team you're building those specific players on, I think makes a difference on your decision making.
Absolutely. And then, we talk about, like, week 16 being able to catapult you, playing Green Bay, who profiles as a high-scoring offense. I mean, they're gonna have to be pushed, and so I like the odds of just Jordan Love and Derek Carr having to just chuck it to whoever's catching touchdowns,
Mhm.
and also a nice little thing is we didn't take Olave in this room, so taking Shaheed is like leveraging us not having
Yeah.
Olave both
Yep.
in our pod and throughout the playoffs, and I think it's very micro, very niche, but it's meaningful in and of
Mm.
itself
Oh, yeah.
when, like, appropriately taken account of.
Yep. Oh, yeah, you're hitting on some of those, like, even, like, Lockett, like leveraging DK. If you hit on a couple of those with your mid-round, late-round guys over the early guys in those playoff weeks, it's meaningful. It's definitely meaningful. I
Rob the
like this double
Grinder.
tap here at 132, 133 from the 12 spot.
Yep, gets Dallas correlation, and did he have Seattle? No, just taking a contingent bet, it looks like.
Yeah.
I should have more Charbonnet. I end up taking other guys around him more often for whatever reason. But I need to, and I've been saying this for like 3 months, I need to force myself to get more Charbonnet.
At least you're conscious. At least you're conscious of it. I think that's
I'm
big.
conscious I have a problem. I just haven't done anything about it yet. Yeah, I don't know how much credit I want to give myself.
I do the ADP on Trevor Lawrence. He was my highest owned QB, certainly at well above 20% in the big board.
Oh, so you were tilting a lot on those dropped in pass interference touchdowns in the red zone.
Or like Ridley, like being a half inch out, not
That's what I'm
getting
saying.
Like,
Yeah,
challenge, like Zay Jones doing it the same game, like a play later. Yeah,
yep.
like you take note of those things.
It hurts, but he's got rushing upside, and if this offense goes more vertical and he just gets better variance on long touchdowns, you're cooking.
Are you good with Ford and Burton, Ford, Pat Fry, 2 RBs? What do you like here?
I think we double tap RB, and I'm a Ty Chandler guy.
Ooh, spice.
So I think
Ty
Ford
Chandler
and
over. So now are you Ford or Algier?
I'm still Ford because we want to make sure that we do have an RB2 putting up some good points. It's a fade on Chubb, who we did not take at the turn and who I'm not taking a lot. And I think he's one of the few clear RB2s. He's got a pass catching role. They're going to go more empty. I think there's a lot of value there. And ADP wise, we don't know who's going to fall back around to us, but we'd like some standalone value because there is a chance that one of these RBs fills a flex spot on a random 2 touchdown game like Ford has had. And I value that over just a pure handcuff because there are some other handcuffs later on. But Algier's a great get at his ADP.
Are you worried at all about Donta Foreman joining Cleveland? Is that a tell on Chubb's health, or is that a tell on Ford? What side do you sort of lean there?
Well, from a common sense, so you in the chat may not be aware, but the last few years I have like really leaned into what are the real medical like data points that we can use to leverage against the field on either optimism or skepticism, right? So last year I had a shitload of Brees because the field was wrong about his ACL versus J.K. Dobbins coming off multi-ligament injury and limping. Kyle Pitts. I had very little of either one of those guys because of the multi-ligament injury and the struggle through those injuries into camp. And so this year, I'm doing the same thing. Chubb, 28 years old, elite profile, but 28 years old. And the best like injury, especially with like ligaments, like ACL, MCL, Achilles, elite athletes at a young age returning have the best shot at returning soon and return. And when I say soon, I mean on timeline, because you're never beating the timeline. The timeline's what the timeline is. You're not getting back sooner than 9 months. And when you are, Chris Godwin, you are hampered for weeks because you return too early and then returning well. And the third thing about that, if you're like a running back, is pass catching, being able to float your lack of true 100% efficiency on the ground for the first 2 to 6 weeks. Chubb is 28. He's had multiple ligament injuries to the same knee multiple times. It was mid to late season. Foreman is like a pure rusher guy, not a pass catcher guy. And also Chubb had to take a reworked deal where they were doing right by him, but he wasn't going to get cut, still get some money, but it's like half his contract.
Oh,
you tell me what that said.
The timing on that injury was terrible.
It was brutal.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Nez, what's going on?
Up,
Welcome
Nez?
to the live stream. Welcome.
Yeah. So I'm out on Chubb, and I think Foreman is like the Chubb replacement for the first few weeks because they don't know how he's going to recover because he had to get one surgery, wait a few months, get the second surgery. So Foreman is insurance. They have a rusher to replace Chubb in the short term, and he may stick as that guy. He may not. We don't know. I think he will. He he pops, he locks, he scores. So I think it's
Drops.
fine. But Ford is the guy that they wanted. They got him in there even after the injury. They worked him in. Like, he's their guy. At worst, he's a pass catcher in a Ken Dorsey offense. Let's not lose sight of the guy that got like James Cook catches for like 80-yard touchdowns. That's the new OC in the Browns. So I'm big on Ford this year.
I like that. Ooh, we get a little gift with RB coming back to us. We get a gift
I
with
told you
Juwan
it was going to
Johnson
go too late.
if we want. So who here kind of sparks your eye?
I love Bucky Irving.
Ooh, over McLaughlin and
Easily.
how about Antonio Gibson?
I like Antonio as well. I just think I like betting on the rookie usually, but if we take both Gibson and Bucky, I'm
We're
very
definitely
comfortable with
done.
one. But we can also push RB. I like Juwan a lot. Juwan makes sense with his stack. Let's go Juwan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We could also be done at RB here and lean
Totally
into.
could. Totally could. I think we're
Yeah, we gotta.
definitely done at tight end more than likely, unless someone
Yes.
falls we like.
Yeah,
But I think
I'm
we're
good
good.
with that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. Yeah.
Clear. Oh, and
Right. Like
I'll
maybe like
clarify.
a late fan if he were to come back, but I don't think he's coming back in this room.
Fan's fine. I want to clarify for Gamblestein. Ford the clear like RB2 guy, the clear pass catcher guy. Because even with Chubb and Hunt, they've always had Chubb split work, like at least 30 to 40% with the pass catcher guy. And that's what capped his ceiling. That's why we weren't taking him in the top, 2 round. Some of us not taking him in the top 2 rounds because he had capped like true upside for pass catching and like workload. And Ford has been their Hunt replacement thus far. So that's it. And then the Hunt role involves like 20 to 40% of high value touches. And that's not nothing on an offense that's really efficient.
See, guys, you're getting the nuggets from Tyler tonight. Link in the description for his Twitter, link in the description for where you can find his content on YouTube. Slap the like here, hit the sub here. We'll be doing a 24-hour live stream when we hit 2K subs. It's going to happen. It'll happen quick with your help.
I'm curious, who are you like? I'm not taking any of this player. Who's that guy for you?
Yeah, there's a few. Kamara, he goes in a range that I can't take him.
Very fair.
Kamara definitely sticks out. Kyron, again, he's falling, and I think you're going to see this consistently. So ADP is 26 now. I still have him closer to where ETN goes. So Kyron right now, I'm not taking any of, but I think later in the summer we'll grab shares. So I would say Kyron right now is a hard fade for us as well.
And I'm assuming this is like if he falls, you want CLV play, not so much like we're just out.
Right.
Yeah,
So just beating the field on price.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's the long game, right? That's like portfolio wise. Now, if I get him at 31 in a contest that's going to close in less than 2 weeks, like I'll mix him in those spots just because that long fall is not going to happen.
I didn't miss that. Jelani Woods just went at 186. So we talked at the top. I like to full circle this. We were talking about like, hey, sometimes news nuggets this time of year are overblown, and Jelani Woods popping in shorts because he's finally not hampered by his hamstring injury for the 3rd year in a row. That is the type of useless nugget. Like, knowing he's alive and playing, very good. Right. Should that move the needle on a team that rotates tight ends and a guy that has missed lots of time with injury? No, it shouldn't move him up 4 rounds. What are you doing? Come on, guys.
It's funny. It's like the AJ Dillon from years back. Like, look at those quads.
Yeah.
Look at those quads.
Dude, you want to talk about a dude that hit the fucking brick wall of dust.
Yeah, it's pretty
AJ
bad.
Dillon, just RIP.
Logan hates us again. Confirmed. Who do you like here? I think we can go multiple.
Otten falling, but we don't need him. But I don't mind a cheap 3rd tight end. But
how about the receivers? Do you like Devontae?
I like Devontae. I like Jalen McMillan. two guys whose price I think should rise, but Devontae's I don't have enough of, so I like mixing them in. RB.
We're good at QB. This can be
Let's
be
get
2-6. This could be 2-6. 8-2 or 2-6.
Let's save receiver for Dortch. Let's take a tight end or a running back here.
Okay. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go Fant. He also fell a few picks.
I think when you get a tight end that correlates and is at cost or after cost, it doesn't hurt. If you're going to stay at 2 quarterback, a third tight end does help you mathematically optimize for, playoff week, ping pong spikes, and just doubling down on bets. And I don't find, and I think in a build like this, double stacking Kyler makes a lot of sense for single game stuff and season long stuff. And I also think that we can have our decision between a rookie and, a later pass catcher. And I think for this build, it makes sense to do that.
We see Braylon Allen go at 196. This is going to be common. We updated our CSV ranks yesterday for the Maxer on YouTube memberships as well as the Patreon members. And where do we have him? We put him at 196 exactly. That's pretty wild.
Nice.
Goes directly on the dot where he is in the rankings.
And even then, like, he's popping now in news, but that might just simply because, they're phasing Izzy out. He's popping in shorts, but once the pads come on, they start doing installs. Isaiah Davis is a capable, good back who popped in better ways than Braylon the last 2 years. So who knows who's going to truly look good once like installs happen and all that stuff. Right. So even now, like taking shots on that guy, I think is just, it's fine. It's probably not wise this early on, given some more, like I think like Elijah Mitchell, for example, is a more certain RB2 because he's been trusted the last 2 years, despite who the team has added. And the guys they added are better suited to be like kick and punt return rule abusers and like jet sweep dudes on average. But if we're talking about someone that's going to spell CMC or someone that's going to replace CMC in the event of an injury, that's been Elijah Mitchell the last 2.5 years. So
I do worry about Elijah Mitchell and some of those games, like 0 touches, healthy.
He's like nearly he's like the truest form of a handcuff right now.
Yeah.
And even then, like I think the only thing that the staff doesn't like is just, injury bug.
Right. He's not really even getting that change of pace role. Now maybe another year older on CMC, you'll see some of that. And the price discount from last year, you can't complain about that. That's for sure. But that's where I see like Tyler Algier, even from like last year's Elijah Mitchell around 130, like to get Tyler Algier basically in the situation that we thought Elijah Mitchell was last year, 30 picks later, feels really good to me.
Yeah. Although I would venture a guess you're going to see Bijan used at like that 80-85% usage.
Yeah. Right.
Most weeks. Right. But he's one of the better handcuffs for sure. He's # good at the game, and the offense is going to be much better than it was last year.
Let's see what Logan does. He goes McMillan.
Taking McMillions, it always feels good.
McMillions. Yeah, he was one of our highest owned players in the big board as well.
Same. Yeah. Hard knock.
Burton. Ooh, I like the Rashawn click there. What are you a fan of here? We can go RB or receiver. I think it's up to you. I don't care either way.
It's either I'm Dortch or I am probably Madison.
Ooh, you're leaving me with very limited options here.
Hey, I didn't say I'm an easy customer.
We'll go with the correlated Dortch. I can't click Madison. I won't do it.
I know. I had to give you an ugly running back. I knew you weren't going to say it, so I could strong arm you. Hey, if you want to feel good about that Dortch pick, pull up Hayden Winks' tweet today about players versus man coverage.
Yep. Yeah. I saw the graph. I didn't get to fully digest. So I'll do it later today. That's
Dortch
hilarious.
Is in the far right, like holy hell corner of wow, that dude is good. And you're talking about him in the slot, not having to split with anybody. Like he's getting like 5 to 7 targets a game, just crushing. And now he's going to have Marv opening stuff up. Like his upside of just soaking stuff up. This offense gets rolling, 40, pass attempts a game, 35 pass attempts a game. Like, the scoring could just be out of this world. In the world where we stuck with 2 quarterbacks, and this is the reason why I'd rather double stack Kyler. We said 2 quarterbacks. T-Law was double stacked. So in the world that Kyler just shreds, McBride is shredding along with him with our bet, but also we don't have Marv, so it's very likely that Kyler's crushing on the ground, or he's feeding an ancillary other piece that is helping boost like a 35 plus touchdown season. And in that world, we're making the bet that Dortch is access to that. And I think he's got a better ability to do that out of the slot as just like random touchdown, like gimme plays.
And realistically, like, you can get a 16.5 point game from him, fit the flex in the finals, and if he leverages, Marvin Harrison Jr., it could be a 1 game thing where he's worth it just because of 1 game. You think of Tyquan Thornton,
absolutely.
BBM was at 3 that Corain won. Like,
yep,
he contributed like 1 game to his roster is the most important one.
Yep,
and that's all it takes. And when it's correlated, it feels a little better, I will say.
Absolutely.
But Logan in the 3 spot with CJ Stroud and Joe Burr with Aaron Jones.
Let me try that again. Hold on. Joe Burr. There we go. I
love that. Brian Robinson Jr. Chase. Oh, this is a nice RB room. I'm big fan with Stroud and Burrow. Chase, Waddle, Dell, Downs, Roman Wilson. Okay, so this is where it goes. Like 4th wide receivers Downs, which
it's tough.
Might be a little late, but as you can see, like I like Downs, I like Roman Wilson, so he's leaning into some of these players. Corley, Zay Jones, A.T. Perry, and McMillan.
But if you're going to do this, you lean into year 1 and year 2 guys because they have more ambiguity, and the wider range of outcomes benefits you when they hit those tail outcomes. So like, and I'm a big Downs guy because I think the foot injury last year and him being forced to play through it hampered him efficiency wise. And the caveats, though, are that the pass volume is going to be suspect, and the addition of A.D. Mitchell could be like hurting him. But I think Downs can get there with. I mean, he showed us he can get 3 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown because he's a vertical slot guy.
Yep.
So I still like him at his price. But yeah, you probably like him as a wide receiver 5 more oftentimes than not. But I think the texture of this room, fits well.
I think here. Having 3 rookies, you probably, in my opinion, need some sort of floor for early season. I think the Zay Jones pick, just because he was next on ADP, was maybe a trap. I would have liked DeMarcus Robinson for the specific roster construction.
Full agree. DeMarcus Robinson's most likely to like just be a guy that churns out a couple of 4 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown at least 3 or 4 times over the season. Most likely early season,
Just pad the starting, getting a couple of these rookies, especially because if you're going to go a rookie late too, grabbing 3. But Laporta and Conklin, that's a fun pairing as well. Nice.
Really smart that if you're going to invest in Laporta, you bet that he's like the tight end 1 by a good margin and not messing around and getting a third tight end.
And that late tight end that becomes a good value, you pair them, and then you're cooking.
Absolutely.
Stratford Logan. Oh, let's hit DeLudo. He's in the live stream as well. Dak and Justin Herbert. I like this pairing as well. Ooh, Justin Herbert at 146 even gets a falling Dak. Could we get some spoons in the chat? Oh my!
I mean, get the man some spoons because much like Ezekiel Elliott, he never stopped eating running backs.
Yeah. Just man, it was cringy when he was doing it after 2-yard gains. It was good. When you're getting first downs, but every play, it's tough. It's tough.
Well, it's just at some point you want to trust that you've allocated the right way. You've hit on enough guys to make the bet work. And when you over allocate, you're kind of muddying your bet. You don't want to. You want to draft like you're right. And that's not saying, I took 4 late running backs. These are the guys. But like trust that you hit it from a volume perspective. 8's tough. 8 is probably where I'm going. If I didn't start to like round 10.
Yeah, just in the drop off in what are you getting? But now I see Rashawn Johnson. The fall here is 25 picks.
So I think
I can't blame him. Like if you look at it, if you told me 2862, I'd say never. But I see this team and I'm like, okay, like one time. one time.
Well, I will say, like, one thing we were talking about in the Discord was like, it's okay not like, don't let value pull you out of structure. And
Definitely.
so in that world where a guy's falling, maybe that's like a lesson to like, hey, when I'm hammering running backs, just take the running back that falls instead of, and like Tyrone Trace is a great example of like Eric Gray's getting some buzz as being like the actual handcuff. So Tyrone Tracy should probably fall a little bit, and he did. So either trust that you got your guy and you got him in a good pick, and that made sense, or you go, hey, this guy's going late. Maybe that pushes another guy late. And worst case scenario, I'll just leverage by taking the other guy getting new. Like play it like that sometimes, so that you're
I would have
not.
probably rather Rashawn Johnson here.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then just stop it. Then just stop at 7.
Yeah.
And then
But
grab
hey,
a late receiver.
It's
But
yeah.
Yeah, I think after going Tracy here, it's not as bad to grab Rashawn, but I think just grabbing Rashawn right away and potentially him having maybe the passing down work, maybe some red zone work in Chicago, like that's what the hope is in this kind of modified 0 RB start. But it's definitely an interesting room, a lot of rookies. One more receiver, get rid of Tracy, go Rashawn here, one more receiver in this. I mean, it's very balanced, even though it's a 2-8-6-2. The draft capital is extremely balanced.
Yep. And they got good. I mean, this is popping in the value. You know what? One last note, and this again, we're teaching tape, right? This we're all in the room getting film, working on it. These ADPs are likely to shift over the next 3 months in Bestball Mania. So what looks like a value now may not be a value anymore, and there is such a thing as bad value. And the third note specifically to this is that 10 picks of value after round 14 is not significant versus value in the first 3 and 5 rounds. So just something to be cognizant of. It's like, because through the course of the draft season, you'll see dudes fall out of like being drafted in the 14th, 15th round to undrafted. It happened to Dante Foreman last year. So be cognizant that like what seems like a value now might just be ADPs adjusting because it takes longer for players to fall than to rise. And you don't want to be catching all of the values late if those guys are just going to like settle late. Is something to just be aware of in a contest like this.
Rob says disagree, doesn't need a 7th wide receiver on this team. I don't think so either, but I think if you go Rashawn here, I am much more likely to bring in a 7th receiver late because I think the diminishing returns on only having to start 2 RBs and grabbing your 8th receiver when you have to start 3 receivers. Yeah. I mean, your 8th running back when you have to start 3 receivers every week. Like I said, this is very balanced for a 2-8-6-2.
Yeah,
it comes down to preference.
Yeah, we're nitpicking, and ideally this can still work. I just want to point out that Rob is saying a team with Devontae Adams, who did not fulfill his prophecy last year, is saying he doesn't need a 7th. I can't not point that out. I love you, Rob. I do.
All right, now we're actually jumping to Rob's team. We have Mahomes and JJ McCarthy. Wow. Really leaning into the 0. Doesn't care about the 0 on bye week 6 at QB. Achane Swift, Moss, Javonte, Lloyd, and okay, so we're going deep into the player pool now with Jordan. So saying Pierce is not the RB2.
I like it. I'm not a Pierce guy, so yeah, you may as well take the guy with more juice. I just worry that they just end up adding somebody in camp if neither one is really working out.
I sort of feel the same way. Like I think we can wait on that news and what's the risk? Like, okay, Jordan's getting snaps in front of Pierce. Great. He turns into a 17th round pick behind Braylon Allen. Yeah. Jefferson, Nico, Jordan Addison, Rice, Judy, Polk, Bateman, and DJ Chark. Very balanced. Curious with the Rice, because I've been clicking him a lot of after ADP in the 86 range, 86 plus, and it's usually when I have at least 3 receivers before. So I do like the construction he has with the Rice. Curious what your thoughts on Rice are. Are you bringing him in? And
when you take Mahomes, you want him with at least 2 pass catchers, ideally. And he knew, and Davis learned this lesson. If you think he's going to come back around to you, that's not necessarily true. So you go get him because it I think we all understand the market overreacted. Rashid is likely to get, I think it's still likely he gets a 2 to 4 game suspension, given what we know. Disclaimer, given what we know, and there's some stuff we don't know yet. Or it's just as likely that this gets pushed to like next year, a la Kamara, where he gets a 4 game suspension the next year. So at this ADP, if you're in on his profile, you're in on this offense, you are because you took Mahomes, you get your guy. Because I mean, it's very likely that this ADP just slowly rises as we get news. And if it's anything under 4 games or under, he probably rubber bands, a little bit more.
And that's where I'm at. Like, I don't want to be under 8% on a player that could rise a good amount of spots. And the earlier that pick goes, the heavier that rise hits. And we see a very well correlated team with Mahomes, Rice, Kelsey, the Nico bring back for week 16, Jefferson, Jordan Addison, McCarthy. You have the week 17 correlation with Lloyd, which is fun. And as well as Jordan here in Houston. So really well correlated squad. The bye week 6 lean in is a little sketch just because of the
Rob Fantasy don't give a fuck. Rob rocked solo QB in one of the high stakes tournaments last year in a small field. Like Rob correlates with the best of them, and he puts his nuts on the table with the best of them. So
that's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. I think it's very reliant on Rice getting minimal amount of suspension, like 2 game under, and this team's definitely. I
mean, even 4 games with Jefferson and Nico and Addison with the draft capital we've allotted and with the profiles that they have. I mean, missing 4 games when you did. I mean, he also took what it was like 7 or 8 receivers. Like if he misses 3 or 4 games, it's not likely to be missed on an offense like this, especially because he took a rookie that can start really fast, really well. I love Polk as ADP right now. I have a lot.
Yeah. Polk makes a lot of sense too for this team. One of those players that should have a role, like you said, relatively early in. King of Kings, Frank drafting at the 9 spot. Brock Purdy and Steffi. Are you okay with these two? You're bringing in a third.
I'm probably going a third just because Stafford's not giving you as many spike weeks this late in his career as you would like from a second QB. So I mean, you're just betting on like a late season pure run, and that's tough.
I agree, and
it's a little too
on a team like this where you don't have that rushing upside, you don't have that crazy ceiling. Which I mean, Purdy gets dragged in, and he was dragged into a lot of the weekly winners top lineups too because of his weapons mainly.
I love Purdy.
Do you like Fields? Do you like Daniel Jones? Late Levis? You're bringing in one of those guys?
I mean, yeah, you have Spears. I would have loved a Levis on this because you get to bet on a rising offense and just a QB that truly has no fucks to give. He's going to let it loose. They want to have a high pass rate, and he does have some mobility. So I would have liked that for this QB room as far as like, when you're getting into you're getting full season and also when you're getting into the playoffs,
and
you want to have
Ridley
pretty good shots.
And
that's tough. Maybe he got sniped, who knows?
ETN, Harris, Spears, Algier, Herbert, and Foreman, definitely strong. I think you could stop here at 5 if you needed to. Puka, Ayuk, Zay Flowers, Ridley, Godwin, JMO, and Michael Wilson. Schultz, Musgrave, and Johnny. I feel like the capital is good. I think you can sacrifice one running back to try to bring in a third QB if you wanted to. But relatively high floor plays with Purdy and Staffy, not as much a high floor, but I don't mind Purdy at his ADP.
And I mean, I'll allow in this team, he didn't take either of the running backs. So in this universe, the run game struggles or neither running back is really getting it done, or they're just, I mean, the Rams do kind of oscillate between all of their touchdowns coming through the air and all their touchdowns coming through the ground. So maybe this is the year that with Puka, sun running a year 2, not seen since the birth of Jesus Christ, that, he just explodes for like a 40 touchdown season. And then you don't need a third quarterback. And I'll allow the prettiest of paintings at this time for your third.
Even if Staffy could hit 30, even if he could hit 30, like you're cooking based on his ADP.
Oh, yeah.
But little reach up. Now he's got the stack with the bring back with JMO, the Purdy stack. as well as Michael Wilson as the bring back for the Rams. So a little correlation there for week 17. A little 16 as well with Jonnu. So very nice.
I like that late tight end build. Access to a bunch of high scoring offenses with some with a really exciting year 2 Musgrave and just Jonnu being a free piece of the Miami offense right at the end of the draft. I like that a lot.
Let's go. Well, Tyler, I think we drafted a solid squad together, and I appreciate you bringing me out of my comfort zone. Let the people know what you have going on with your content.
Yeah, I'm over with Tom Strachan on the Fantasy Football Sanctuary. Every Monday we do an Underdog draft. This week, earlier today, we just did a super flex. It was truly a hilarious draft. Don't want to spoil too much, but if you didn't see it, we had a really good laugh because there was a team that's decided to go to war against quarterbacks in a super flex draft. I found out I had 0% of a first round player that I thought I definitely had some exposure to. And I also promised the people that Juju Smith-Schuster wouldn't do anything, and if he did do anything, I would either drink wine out of a shoe or buy and wear his jersey. So that was a fun draft. That happens every Monday, 5 Central, 6 Eastern. Tom also does a bunch of like DK live stuff. He's going to be on with Colm. He had Pat Crane on last week. A lot of great stuff. I did a solo stream Sunday for the marathon. That was a lot of fun. Gave the people some tips after my top 100, I think top 85 finish on Drafters last year. It's a fun, different style of tournament. And other than that, man,
you guys are grinding all contests, all forms, and just kind of grabbing that edge where it comes. And I think that's actually smart. The Superflex today, before those ADPs refresh tomorrow, those QBs, especially in later rounds, are coming up, boys. So get in those drafts now if you want to grab the edge. Lean into that early QB, then find the values late. And well, I'll be giving out more tips in the Discord on that tonight. But yeah, if you want to join those drafts, get in the Discord. It's free. Tyler, appreciate you coming on. You're the man. We'll catch you over on Fantasy Sanctuary soon. Again, his info is in the description of the video. Click the link, and we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good night, Pounders.